Alright guys, let's get into this vegan burrito ramen that I made using oyster mushrooms. Now, the star of this show is definitely going to be the consomme, which I'll show you guys how to make really easy and really quick at home. And if you're not sure what consomme is, it's just basically a fancy word for a dipping sauce or some type of sauce with broth with lots of flavor. So, of course, I'm going to be using oyster mushrooms because they have such an amazing texture. I love to use these for my vegan burrito tacos. I love to use these for meat replacement for nachos. They're really, really good. I always get the organic kind. So, yeah, these are my favorite type of mushrooms to cook with when I'm using any type of meat replacement or just want to make like tacos or something like that. So the first thing I did was cut them up really nice and small, threw them in a hot skillet with just a tiny amount of oil. Then I threw in some seasonings like salt, pepper, and garlic. While those are cooking up, I'm just going to start on my consomme. This consists of roasted tomatoes and roasted onions. Now you can roast these in the oven, but I like to do them quickly on top of the stove. And basically, you just want to roast them on high heat, well, sear them on high heat on each side until they're nice and charred. And I know it looks like a ton of different ingredients, but don't worry, I'll list them all below. Once everything has came to a boil for about an hour, you just throw it in a blender and you should have a nice smooth consistency just like that. So we got our sauce going. We got our noodles cooking, which literally take about 2 minutes. You guys know how to cook instant noodles, I'm sure. So while those are cooking up, I'm simply just gonna cut up some ingredients to top off my ramen with. And is it ramen or ramen? I don't know. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but I like to say ramen. I don't know. But anyways, cutting up some onions. I got some white onions and I'm also dicing up some red onions because I want this to be nice and aesthetically pleasing. I also have some radishes. If you have a mandolin to slice these thinner, you definitely can, but I have a super sharp knife, so this just worked out just fine. I'm just using one radish. I'm just cutting it up into small thin circles. Then I got some cilantro. I'm not really gonna cut that up. I'm just grabbing a bunch of little leaves and we're just gonna top those on the top of our ramen once it's done. Now back to our mushrooms. They should have a nice brown sear on them. You want to let these cook for as long as you can, maybe about 10 minutes because these mushrooms tend to have a lot of moisture in them. So the longer you cook them, the more firmer they're going to be and taste just like the perfect meat replacement. Once your noodles are done, you can rinse them in a little bit of cold water for a second and then plate them up in your bowl. Now we can finally build it up. I'm just adding in those mushrooms that we had cooked off. And once they're cooked off for about 10 minutes, I just added a little more sauce to the mushrooms in the pan just to give it some extra flavor. And it came out with this beautiful brownish color. So yeah, it's looking real good. Now we're just going to simply pour over our burrito sauce that we made. And if you know anything about burrito sauce, the typical original sauce is made with goat. So this is all vegetables, tomatoes, chilies, garlic, cinnamon sticks, and it tastes just as good. No meat was needed or added in this at all. So now we get to make it look really pretty. We got our mushrooms, we got our two types of onions. I'm going in with my radishes once again to for presentation purposes. So of course, all just gonna get ate up. But yes, we want it to look really, really nice. Then I'm just gonna go ahead and add my cilantro right on top. This is looking so good already. Like, oh my God. And what I love about this consomme is that you can literally make it with anything. Like, you can make a soup out of this. You can make, like, the possibilities are endless. So, yeah, once you got the sauce down pat, you can literally create so much more with it. Lastly, I just topped it off with some vegan mozzarella cheese shreds because you gotta have the cheese on there. And look how this turned out, y'all. Now, I made a big batch of consomme, so feel free to store that in the fridge. It will definitely last up to 7 to 10 days max. So that would probably be the only thing that took the longest out of this recipe. But if you got the sauce already made and on deck, you can literally whip this dish up in about 5 minutes or less. Well, 10 minutes because you want to cook those mushrooms really good. But either way, it was so quick and easy, so different. And if you love noodles like me, I used to love noodles so much. This is just a fun and new creative way to spice them up a little bit. And speaking of spice, I should have added some jalapenos in this. That would have really set it off. But yeah, my consomme is not spicy at all. But either way, let me know what you guys think about this recipe.